Hey there, and welcome to Yoga for Teens. Today, I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction on the program and the classes that we'll offer here, and a little bit about our philosophy, and then some kind of basics on yoga before we get started. My name is Julie, and I am the yoga teacher here and yoga studio owner here at Be the Love. I've been a yoga teacher for 5 years, and before that, I was an engineer, and I was also in finance. I came to yoga in part because it was a great way to care for myself when I was feeling really stressed. And then it became something that I genuinely enjoyed studying and learning about and practicing. And I discovered a lot of stuff about myself, and that is what has brought me to here today. I wanted to talk a little bit about what is yoga, because I think, if you asked any yoga teacher, they might give you a slightly different answer. So understanding kind of the way in which we approach yoga here can also help you to understand, if this is a good fit for you or not. What is yoga? Here, we would say it's bringing together. It's a union, right? It's bringing together. And we're bringing together three things. We're bringing together the body, right? The physical body. We're bringing together the mind, right? The thoughts in our minds. And we're bringing together the breath. So, noticing how the body is breathing, where we are, and then modifying the breath to help to manage the body and the mind and kind of bring it all together. In this class, we talk a lot about understanding how the brain and the body work. And we talk a lot about learning how to observe, right, what's happening in the brain and the body. And there's a reason for that, right? Because the more we can observe and understand what's happening in our brains and in our bodies, the more we can use the tools that we learn in yoga to balance those out and bring the body and the brain and the breath into balance. And so really, what are we going for in our yoga class? We're going to bring ourselves into balance. So if you are someone that tends to feel, or if you're feeling really tired and lazy and you need a little bit more energy for the day, then there's a yoga practice out there to help you pick up that energy and balance out that tiredness with some more energy and some lifting up. And if you're feeling a little over energized or scattered or anxious, then there's a yoga practice for you to help to bring you back down into a more grounded place where you can focus a little bit better. So that's yoga, and that's kind of what we're going after here. You can expect in this class to learn some basic anatomy, to learn some breathing exercises, and more importantly, understand why and when to use those breathing practices. We'll also do some mindfulness techniques. We'll do mantras, so focusing your head and your thoughts on, setting in some positive intentions or some guided, directed thoughts to help the brain and the body come into, again, that balance that we're looking for. We'll also do some relaxation practices. And really, like, what are we after? We're learning self-awareness, right? It's the most valuable tool we can learn on the mat is understanding ourselves. And yoga as a practice gets to be this really big exploration of self-discovery, right? And as we come into observing, becoming aware of our thoughts and our feelings, the more we can, know our thoughts and our feelings, not just on the mat, but when we're in the rest of our lives. And then we'll also do some self-reflection. I really like to, in my yoga classes in school, bring in journaling as a component of what we do. I think it's a really great way to begin to understand oneself, and I think often get surprised at what we hear. We'll talk about stress, reducing stress. We'll talk about picking ourselves up if we're feeling a little sad. We'll talk about how to improve concentration, how to uplift, how to energize, how to, bring a little bit more joy into our environment. And we'll do all that with like a very caring and considered experience. So I'm always looking for your feedback. I'm always looking to hear from you. And I would love to, continue to work with you to create something that helps and supports you. So with all of that, let's find our way onto the mat, and let's find a comfortable seat where we can sit and just begin to connect into practice. So If you happen to have a blanket or something to sit on, you can sit on the edge of that blanket. And if not, you can just take a comfortable seat, walking your seat back and coming into a comfortable cross-legged position. And so here you can have your hands on your knees and just begin to settle and sink into the earth. And if you'd like, you can begin to lift your shoulders up to your ears. Give yourself a nice big breath in. Then roll your shoulders down your back. Awesome. We'll do that twice more. Inhale up. Roll them back. One more inhale up. And roll your shoulders down your back. Awesome. And if you'd like, you can close your eyes or you can begin to look down towards the ground. And once you land here, just begin to check in with your heart and your body and your brain, and begin to come into awareness of what's on your mind, what's in your heart today, and as you begin practice. And it's okay if you don't have an immediate answer. I feel like oftentimes, even now, I find myself not really sure, what's on my heart or mind. Kind of feels a little blank. And so if that's true for you, that's okay. Just come into the checking in as a way to begin. Now let's start to observe the breath. So without modifying or changing it too much, begin to notice where in your body you are breathing. In this practice, we'll learn 3 different parts of the body, or 3 different parts of the lungs where we tend to carry and hold our breath. Often when our breath is shallow in the heart space, we have more of a focused outward energy. And if we can bring the breath down into the ribs, that's often where we breathe when we're trying to bring a little bit more oxygen into the body, and particularly when we're exercising or moving a lot. And then when we're really calm and relaxed, or when we're bringing in that energy of calm, relaxation, we bring the breath down into the belly. And so let's begin with some belly breathing. And take just 3 breaths into the belly. You can bring your hands onto your belly if you'd like. And as we come into the belly breathing, we're going to imagine the belly filling up like a balloon, allowing that expansion to happen in the muscles, and allowing the belly to press out and to fill the hands with volume as we breathe in. And on your exhale, as you release, you can begin to draw the navel back towards the spine and empty the belly out. Let's do that twice more. Breathing into the belly. Beginning to expand the belly with air. And your exhale, emptying out. Letting the air go. One more breath into the belly. And one more exhale out. Awesome. And then let's bring hands onto the ribs. Let's begin to breathe into the ribs and see what we observe about breath in the ribs. So make a nice big breath into the ribs. And let it go. Breath in. And let it go. One more breath in. And let it go. And then stacking hands on the heart and breathing into the heart space. Let's take just one breath there. Nice and slow. And exhale, let it go. And if you'd like, as we land with hands, maybe keeping them on the heart, you could begin to invite in an intention. Maybe it's a mantra, a positive phrase that you speak to yourself. Maybe it's just a word or a feeling. And again, connect in with that word or that feeling. Maybe let it land in your heart, like joy or peace or stillness or rest or energized, right? Uplifting, right? Joyful, excited feelings. And let's take a nice big breath in and let it out. Awesome. So we're going to begin our class today with one of my favorite ways to wake up the body and really start to pick up the energy and pick up the, especially in the beginning of the day. So we're going to come to standing. I'm going to come right up to standing, and you can have your feet at hips width distance. And let's see if we can get the camera to focus again. Come on, there it is. Okay. So we're going to take the feet to hips width distance, and we're going to move through each joint in the body. This is our joint opening series. It's a great way to start the day, especially, or just like in the middle of the day if you need a little bit of a pick-me-up. So we're going to start at the feet and we'll work our way all the way up to the neck and work each channel of joints as we go. So let's start with one foot. It doesn't matter which foot, we're going to bring one foot behind us. Awesome. And again, you can have your hands on your hips to balance here. And we're just going to make 6 circles with the ankle. And so as we do this, you can probably observe or notice that you're also crunching the toe joints as we go here. Let's give it one more circle on this side. So we're just giving little circles to the ankle and the toes, and then switch directions. So making sure that we move in both directions. Yeah. Might hear a little bit of crackling in the toes. Let's do one more circle. Awesome. And then we'll switch sides. So again, the toes can come behind you, and then slowly make your circles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then we switch directions for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Awesome. So from the ankles, we come up to the knees. So I'll turn so that you can see me. We're going to bend the knees, and you can bring your hands onto the flesh above your knees. And let's just start to make some tiny little circles with the knees, right? These don't need to be big. Be nice and small and controlled circles for 5 and 6. And then we switch directions for 6 and 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And the counting is actually really good to bring the brain into balance, right? And just start to concentrate thought and energy. So maybe the counting is helpful for you. And we're going to bring our feet nice and wide now. We're going to have our hands on our hips. We're going to move the hips. So the hips are the largest joint in the body. And here, really looking to build a lot of connection between the stability of the legs and maybe a little bit more mobility in the hips and the spine. So take your time, right? There's a lot of tissue there. Make your circles as big or as small as you'd like. And then just start to release any tension that might be built up in your hips as we complete our circles in this direction. And when you're ready, you can switch directions. So as we do this, fun fact, we're working and starting to mobilize, right? Get moving our synovial fluid, right? So that's the fluid in the joints. And so as we do this, we also kind of inspire or begin the detoxification process. So just like getting things moving, which is really important this time of year, as it is cold and dark, and it's, there's a lot of cold and flu in the air. So, or like that we can catch. So let's bring our hands onto our shoulders. Now we're going to move the shoulders next. And again, you can do the same thing where you're taking your time making your circles for 3 and 4, 5 and 6. Awesome. And then we'll switch directions. So 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Awesome. So we're going to work the spine next, and we'll do this through 2 different methods. Let's start by just kind of taking the feet wide and moving a bit side to side. And this is just a great way, if we missed any spots, usually just kind of moving side to side can begin to flush and open up all the joints and really get things mobilized and moving. And again, if you hear those pops and crackles, that's just a little bit of air releasing from your joints. And it also means it's like a good indication that this is helping to get things going. Awesome. Let's just do a couple more. Awesome. All right, now we're going to move the wrists, and then we'll move the spine and the head. So we're going to bring our hands together, and I'll step a little bit closer. We're going to wrap the fingers together, and there's 2 different ways you can do this, either having your palms closed like this, or if it's helpful, you can point your index fingers forward, and that's just to help with the tracing of the shape that we make, which is, as you can see, a figure 8 or an infinity sign. And so you'll take your time making that figure 8 infinity sign to open up the joints in the fingers now and the wrists. Yeah. I'll do one more. And then we'll switch directions, which can be a little bit of a brain tease. That's why I like to have this index finger forward. It's the only way I can tell that I did, in fact, switch directions. There we go. I'll do one more. Awesome. And then just for good measure, let's just shake out the hands. Yeah, great. So really getting things moving. And so this is like, if you're just beginning of the day, you're feeling a little sluggish to get started, this is a great series you can do to just get out of bed and get things moving. Let's inhale, reach the hands up nice and high. Now we're going to move the spine. So we'll slowly roll our way down. You can roll one vertebrae at a time, slowly finding your way, hands, approaching the earth, maybe touching the ground. And you can just kind of trace your fingers along your legs as you come on up again. We'll reach hands up to the sky, nice big stretch. And then slowly roll our way back down again, rolling back down to the ground. And then find your way, again, maybe tracing your legs, slowly coming all the way up, reaching up high, and then slowly rolling down again. So it's almost like a half sun salutation. Not quite, but really working the spine in a way that allows all those vertebrae to slowly stack upon one another as we reach up, and then slowly release again as we roll our way back down. Awesome. One more. Slowly rolling all the way up, reaching up high. And then we'll roll back down again. And this time we will stay hands to the ground. Let's come on down to a seat. Crossing the ankles, finding a comfortable seat, whatever arrangement you'd like, so that we can begin to open up the neck. So bringing the chin down towards the chest, you can slowly make some circles with your head. And we'll make just 3 in one direction. You can move ear to shoulder, and then ear to shoulder. And then once you've got your 3 circles, we'll switch directions again. So rolling in the opposite direction. And then once you've got 3 in that direction, we'll switch again. Again, taking your time and letting this come. There's no need to rush. And then switching one more time. Once you've got your last circle, you can come back to center. Give yourself a moment to reorient. Landing here in your seat, feeling and observing, right, any changes that may have taken place during our series, right, during that joint opening series. Some of the observations you might notice include the body feeling a little bit warmer, right? Maybe you feel a little uptick in energy. Maybe you have a little bit more focus in your mind. And maybe you have even, almost like a feeling of more conviction, more like determination. Sometimes that can come up as we build heat in the body. As we just come to awareness of even the tiniest observation of what might have shifted or changed for you. Awesome. And then we're just going to move into a light movement series and then come into a restful shape. So let's bring ourselves onto hands and knees, coming into our tabletop shape. And we'll continue that mobility and movement in the shoulders and the spine and the hips. So pressing the hands into the ground, you can bring them right underneath your shoulders. And let's start with finding the tabletop shape first. So you're high-fiving the earth. You're going to engage your shoulders. They're super strong. And then squeeze the belly button up to the spine, right? Like you're trying to squeeze or hold or holding something as if you're a tabletop, right? So maybe you have like a pitcher of water on your back and you're holding that back tabletop up so that you're super strong so that it doesn't spill. And then your hips are right underneath your over your knees. And you're super strong here as you press your hands and your knees into the ground. And let's give ourselves just 3 breaths, finding a nice long spine. Awesome. And now we're going to come into our cat and cow shape. So our cow shape, we're tipping the tailbone and the head up to the sky. The belly drops to the ground. Here we breathe in and we fill up the lungs and maybe separate the ribs. We breathe in. And then once we're full of air, you can begin to tilt the tailbone and then round the back and then drop the head down to the ground, coming into our cat pose. And as we come into the cat pose, we squeeze out all the air. Great, so let's continue lifting the tailbone, dropping the belly, opening the ribs and heart as we breathe in. And then on the exhale, rounding the back as the tailbone and head drop to the earth. And let's do 3 more of those, allowing the body to move nice and slow like a wave. And then we'll come back to center. And to just reinforce this opening of the joints a little bit more, I'm just going to give you a different way to do that. So hands are pressing, we're finding that tabletop shape. And then we're just going to move the torso just a little bit, a little forward, a little to the side, a little back towards the heels, and a little to the other side. So just making these little circles with the torso. And at this point, you'll start to feel, right, some movement in your joints, in your shoulders, and your hips. And from here, once you feel that, you can begin to turn in the opposite direction, maybe making those circles in the opposite direction. We're just looking to open up and warm the joints, right, with these little movements. And a lot of times, what we learn in yoga is that it doesn't take a lot of movement to make change, right, or to get the effects that we're looking for. Let's give ourselves just a couple more breaths. And then when we're ready, we'll come back to our tabletop shape. We can press one hand into the ground, doesn't matter which one. And then the opposite hand reaches up to the sky. Reach up super tall, right? Imagining that you're trying to touch the ceiling with your fingertips. Fingertips. Let's breathe in again. Nice big breath in. And then exhale. As you exhale, you can thread the needle, bringing that shoulder onto the earth. Bring the hand in between the opposite hand and opposite knee. And then if you'd like, you can straighten the arm, finding your threaded needle and resting on the ground. And here we'll give ourselves just 3 breaths. And then when you're ready, you can slide that palm right back down onto the ground and slowly bring the shoulder that's on the earth, unwind and lift that hand back up to the sky. And we'll find our way back to tabletop and do the same thing on the other side. So hand reaches up to the ceiling, we stretch up nice and tall, lift up through the ribs. And then on the exhale, thread the needle, bring the shoulder down onto the ground. Let the head rest on the ground. Maybe bring that upper arm nice and long. Let the body be heavy as it kind of rests into the ground. And we'll give ourselves that 3 breaths. And when you're ready, you can slide that palm back, slowly press into the ground, slowly reach your hand up to the sky, breathe in, and then find your tabletop once again. All right, let's cross the ankles. We'll come into a nice quick transition here. And you can sit back on the heels, finding that cross-legged position. And then we'll just scooch ourselves down onto our backs. You can tuck your knees into your chest if you'd like. And just take a moment to let the back land on the earth. Coming into our ball pose. One of my favorite ways to relax and release. Maybe giving yourself a big hug, a big squeeze. Tucking the chin down towards the chest so the neck is nice and long. And then when you're ready, you can bring your feet onto the ground. And if you'd like, you can either have the knees bent, knocking the knees together, or stretch your arms nice and long. We'll come into our rest pose now. And notice here as you land on the ground, if there's any parts of you that feel a little uncomfortable. And see if you can find a little bit more comfort. So maybe that means letting your toes kind of splay out to the sides. Maybe that means adjusting your hips so that you're resting on the ground. Maybe that means walking your shoulder blades a little closer together. If you'd like, you can send your arms out to the sides and flip your palms up to the sky. And if you're feeling comfortable and relaxed, and if you'd like to, you can close your eyes. And I'm going to offer you, if you'd like, a guided relaxation and one way, a meditation technique that we have to relax the body. You can either listen to my words or feel free to tune me out and just kind of rest here on the ground. What we'll do in our guided relaxation is begin at the crown of the head and slowly work our way down to the ends of the toes. And as we do, we'll bring our conscious awareness, right, our mind, to concentrate on that part of the body, and with the mind and the breath, begin to relax those parts. We'll start at the crown of the head. And you can imagine just breathing into the crown of the head. And as you do, the crown of the head and all the hair follicles begin to soften and relax and release. And then we'll bring attention and awareness down to the forehead and the eyebrows and the eye sockets. And slowly allow all of those parts to relax and release and soften with attention, awareness, and breath. And then continuing down to the cheeks and to the jaw. And kind of, if you'd like, separate your teeth and let your tongue get heavy. And then bringing your attention from the crown of your head down to the back of your head and to the sides of your ears and the space behind your ears. And just let your whole head feel heavy and soft and relaxed as you rest on the ground. Following the back of your head, you can trace the back of your neck and all those tiny little bones. And as you bring attention and awareness to each one, they each soften and relax and release. And then tracing the spine down in between the shoulder blades, allowing the shoulders and the upper back, the spine and the mid back, and the spine and the low back, all the way down to the tailbone to soften and relax and release. And from the chin to the neck, and the neck to the chest, we soften and relax and release the throat and the chest. And the whole right arm from the right shoulder and elbow to wrist and palm, and all 5 fingers. We soften and relax and release the whole right arm. Almost imagine the bones get a little bit heavier as they soften and relax and release on the ground. And then bringing attention and awareness and breath to the left arm. You can soften and relax and release from the left shoulder to elbow, to wrist, to palm, to each finger on the left hand. Almost as if the bones in the left arm get a little heavier as they relax into the earth. And so from the center of your chest, your heart space, to your ribs and your belly and your hips, your whole torso softens and relaxes and releases. And your right leg, your upper leg to knee, to ankle, to bottom of foot and top of foot, and all 5 toes. And begin to soften and relax and release the whole right leg. And then the left leg, from the left upper leg to knee, to shin, to ankle, to bottom of foot and top of foot, and all toes on the left foot. The whole left leg softens and relaxes and releases. And so from the crown of your head to the ends of your fingertips, to the ends of your toes, your whole body feels maybe a little bit heavier, a little bit softer as you relax and release into the ground. And so we'll remain here in this relaxed position for just a few breaths. Maybe observing the way you feel. Maybe just allowing the mind to be clear, empty of thought. Maybe observing the breath as it inflates the lungs and empties back out again. Give ourselves one more big breath in here. And let it go. And then we'll slowly begin to bring movement to fingers and toes. And if you'd like, you can stretch your arms up overhead and offer yourself a nice big breath in. Let it go. And then if you'd like, you could bend your knees and slowly roll over to the side. Pausing for a moment with your body on the earth. And beginning to become aware of the space in between rest and the rest of the day. When you're ready, you can slowly press yourself up and cross your ankles and maybe bring your hands onto your knees or stacking your hands on your heart. And here again, we'll come into just observing, how do you feel right now in your body, in your breath, and in your mind? Noticing if anything has shifted or changed. And remembering again that intention or word or phrase or mantra. And repeating that again to yourself. Maybe I am calm, or I am relaxed, or I am bright, or I am joyful, or I am easy, or I am still. And together we'll take a nice big breath in if you'd like. And on our exhale, we'll let it all go. And that's it. Thank you for practicing with me today. I hope this practice offered you a little something for the rest of your day. And I wish you well, and I hope to see you again soon.